Portland has long been a city familiar with federal operations, but recent developments have drawn national attention in a way few could ignore. In a carefully coordinated action, federal authorities increased their presence around the city's ICE facility. Streets were dotted with unmarked vehicles and federal personnel stationed at strategic points, creating a scene that immediately caught the attention of residents, business owners, and families living nearby. For many Portlanders, the scene was both unusual and significant. Federal teams operated with careful coordination, stressing adherence to legal procedures and operational protocols. Their presence was deliberate yet highly visible, highlighting the ongoing friction between local governance and federal oversight. It underscored the importance federal authorities place on compliance and public safety, especially in cities where enforcement priorities remain under discussion. This deployment was not routine. It was a demonstration of capability and intent. It signaled to Portland and the nation as a whole that federal agencies can mobilize substantial resources in urban environments, operating within the law while ensuring their presence is noticed. Community members, legal experts, and city officials are now left reflecting on why this action was deemed necessary, what intelligence informed the move, and how it may shape federal enforcement strategies across the country going forward. In this video, we will explore every layer of this operation: the historical backdrop that put Portland at the center of national attention, the reasons why federal agencies chose this city, the immediate reactions from the community, and the broader implications for the relationship between federal power and local governance. By the end, the context will be clear: why federal oversight matters, how these actions are being justified, and what lessons may emerge from this operation. Portland has long been known for its progressive governance, including sanctuary-style policies that limit cooperation with certain federal enforcement actions. Supporters of these policies argue they build community trust, allowing residents to report crimes or seek public services without fear of immigration-related consequences. Local officials have often framed these measures as essential for maintaining public safety at the neighborhood level. Federal authorities, however, have expressed concerns for years. They argue that while well-intentioned, Portland's policies sometimes slow down or obstruct cases that require federal oversight. Particular attention has been drawn to situations where individuals with pending federal reviews remained in the community longer than expected, creating administrative and enforcement challenges. This dynamic has contributed to a steady buildup of friction between Portland's local leadership and federal agencies. City officials prioritize community protection and autonomy in decision-making, while federal agencies emphasize the constitutional principle that national laws must be applied consistently. The result has been years of policy discussions, public debate, and periodic federal interventions that did little to resolve the fundamental differences. By 2025, federal officials determined that a larger coordinated presence was necessary to address ongoing concerns. The decision was not sudden but stemmed from months of planning, intelligence gathering, and interagency coordination. Portland's reputation as a city resistant to federal oversight made it a high-profile location for demonstrating that national law enforcement could operate effectively, even in challenging environments. Officials stressed that the measures were not aimed at disrupting communities or targeting law-abiding residents. Instead, the goal was to ensure that federal cases were addressed promptly, backlogs reduced, and federal mandates enforced. In the eyes of federal leadership, the operation represented both a logistical necessity and a symbolic message. Local policy disagreements cannot override national law. When President Trump returned to office in 2025, one of his core priorities was ensuring federal law applied uniformly across the country, regardless of local opposition. Portland quickly emerged as a focal point, given its long-standing resistance to certain federal enforcement practices. Federal officials had noted delays and gaps in accountability, while Portland leaders continued to defend their policies as vital for maintaining trust and public order locally. The federal response was strategic and tightly coordinated. Specialized teams were deployed, with a clear emphasis on upholding legal standards and minimizing unnecessary disruption to ordinary residents. Portland's political and symbolic importance meant that the operation was designed not just for enforcement, but also to underscore the federal government's ability to act decisively when national authority is involved. The tensions reached a new level in late September 2025, when President Trump authorized the deployment of approximately 200 National Guard troops to Portland. Their mission was to secure federal facilities, including the ICE building, following intelligence of potential threats near these locations. The authorization, set for up to 60 days, included instructions for an appropriate response if necessary, reflecting the administration's focus on protecting federal property and personnel. The decision triggered immediate pushback from local officials. Oregon Governor Tina Kotek and Portland Mayor Keith Wilson expressed concern, arguing it could escalate tensions rather than easing them. Both leaders filed a legal challenge to the deployment, raising questions about its legality and potential impacts on local order. Public demonstrations soon followed. On September 28th, several hundred residents gathered outside the ICE facility to voice opinions on the federal deployment. The majority of the demonstrations were peaceful, while a few incidents required intervention, including 2 arrests reported by Portland police related to minor confrontations. Federal agents and DHS personnel were present, monitoring the situation closely. The presence of federal forces coincided with ongoing legal discussions between city authorities and federal agencies. The City of Portland issued a land use notice regarding facility compliance, citing local regulatory concerns. This step added another layer of complexity, further highlighting the divide between local governance and federal enforcement objectives. Portland Police Chief Bob Day publicly questioned the necessity of National Guard troops, noting that city law enforcement was capable of maintaining order. His remarks highlighted the extent of discussion not only between city and federal leadership, but also within Portland's institutions regarding enforcement, safety, and community trust. Despite the heightened presence of federal personnel and the political spotlight on Portland, there is no verified evidence of mass arrests linked to this deployment. Instead, the federal measures functioned as a preventive, highly visible effort to secure federal facilities and demonstrate operational readiness in a city where national authority has often been examined. The situation remains fluid. Lawsuits, protests, and ongoing policy debates continue to shape the public conversation. Portland now serves as a case study in the delicate balance between local governance and federal authority, a reminder of the complexities involved when national enforcement priorities intersect with city-level policies. The federal presence sparked immediate and wide-ranging discussion across Portland. For many residents, the sight of unmarked vehicles and coordinated teams was unusual, a reminder of moments when federal action previously intersected with local tensions. Some argued the deployment was unnecessary, suggesting it risked inflaming community distrust. Activists were among the most vocal critics, describing the move as a highly visible operation that could impact local trust and cooperation with law enforcement. Local officials echoed these concerns. Several city council members questioned the need for such a large-scale presence, emphasizing Portland's long-standing commitment to autonomy and community-based approaches to safety. Statements from the mayor's office underscored that the city could manage security without heavy federal involvement, reflecting broader sentiments of caution toward outside interventions. Yet not all voices opposed the move. Business owners and property managers near the ICE facility described the federal presence as a source of reassurance, particularly for those mindful of previous large demonstrations. For them, the deployment represented stability amid heightened political and social attention. Supporters of federal action framed the operation as a sign of seriousness, evidence that the government was committed to protecting federal property and ensuring compliance with national law. These contrasting perspectives revealed Portland's political and civic landscape is diverse. Reactions to the deployment mirrored long-running debates within the city about safety, governance, and the role of federal oversight. To understand the weight of the recent deployment, it is necessary to consider Portland's long history with federal operations. The city's ICE facility has been a focal point for demonstrations for years, drawing crowds of protesters and activists. Legal discussions over federal jurisdiction and local compliance have been recurring themes, and the facility itself has become symbolic of broader discussions over local autonomy and federal authority. The events of 2020 remain a turning point. Portland became one of the most prominent sites of protest nationally, with demonstrations lasting weeks and federal officers deployed to protect government property. Images of barricades and confrontations were widely covered in the media, leaving a lasting impression on Portland's national perception. Those months cemented the city's reputation as a stage where local values and federal authority intersected visibly. In subsequent years, tensions persisted. While protests diminished in size, underlying disagreements between Portland's progressive policies, such as sanctuary protections and federal enforcement objectives, continued. Each new incident, whether related to immigration enforcement or broader law and order issues, seemed to reopen discussions. Against this backdrop, the latest deployment was not an isolated decision, but another chapter in a continuing narrative. Beyond Portland, the operation reignited national conversations about federal enforcement in local communities. Advocates for a strong federal response argued that consistent enforcement is essential to the integrity of national law. Critics raised concerns that highly visible federal operations in cities with strong local protections could impact democratic decision-making at the municipal and state levels. The Portland case contributed to broader discussions about immigration enforcement nationwide. Supporters of strict enforcement viewed it as necessary to maintain accountability. Opponents emphasized trust, fairness, and community engagement, noting that preventive measures should avoid alienating the population's law enforcement aims to protect. Ultimately, the deployment became more than a local event. It served as a symbolic moment in the national conversation. It highlighted the intersection of federal authority and local governance, raising questions that will likely influence policy debates for years. Portland once again served as a bellwether for federal-local relations in the United States. While Portland drew unique attention, it is not alone in its interactions with federal enforcement. Cities like Chicago, Seattle, and New York have also faced discussions with federal authorities over immigration enforcement, sanctuary policies, and jurisdictional scope. In Chicago, federal officials have addressed local limits on detainer requests, while New York has navigated policies on police cooperation with federal agencies. Seattle, like Portland, is noted for strong community engagement and local resistance to federal operations. What sets Portland apart is the intensity and frequency of its interactions with federal personnel. Few other cities have experienced the same level of sustained public attention, media coverage, and legal discussion linked directly to an ICE facility. Portland's history of protests and its symbolic role in debates about local autonomy make it a prominent case study in federal-local relations. By comparing Portland with other cities, it becomes clear that while the discussion is national, Portland remains a central stage where federal-local dynamics are most visible. Portland's recent experience is expected to have long-lasting implications for both local governance and federal planning. City officials are likely to reassess emergency protocols, examining how communication between municipal departments, law enforcement, and federal agencies can be strengthened. The focus will be on creating smoother coordination channels that allow for rapid decision-making without compromising the city's operational autonomy. Federal authorities, meanwhile, may use Portland as a blueprint for evaluating resource deployment in urban settings. Insights from this operation, ranging from personnel allocation to logistical support, could inform planning for similar high-profile actions in other cities. Attention will be given to timing, placement of personnel, and the use of technology to monitor situations while minimizing disruption to everyday life. Equally important is community engagement. Officials on both sides may explore new methods to keep residents informed about ongoing or planned operations, emphasizing transparency and trust. By providing timely updates, clarifying objectives, and addressing public concerns proactively, authorities aim to prevent confusion and reduce tension in areas where federal activity intersects with daily life. Finally, the lessons learned in Portland may shape broader national strategies. By understanding what sparked friction and where cooperation succeeded, policymakers can refine enforcement frameworks, balancing the need to uphold federal law with the realities of local policy and community sentiment. This forward-looking approach could lead to more strategic, adaptable, and community-conscious operations nationwide, ensuring that future deployments are effective without escalating local tensions. If you enjoyed watching this video, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to hit the notification bell to stay updated on our latest content. We'd also love to hear your thoughts. Comment down below, and let us know your opinion on this issue. Your feedback helps us bring you similar videos. Thanks for watching.